So that really speaks to how intentional practice and incidental practice can work together from my perspective. So when you're just starting out in understanding your anxiety and you're getting educated about what's happening and trying to understand where it's playing out, that can be a really great time to do formal practice or intentional practice. You identify what's happening and then go seek it out on purpose. And what you're doing there is bringing more awareness to your own process, but you're also developing efficacy around the moments that are hardest. And then really these have to happen in parallel because your anxiety disorder exists within the context of your life, but theoretically it would be doing intentional practice first and incidental practice later. And when you think about incidental practice, I think about it as like, don't make it worse. So you set out to understand your with intentional practice to kind of learn what's happening, what your options are, and what you can do to make yourself feel better, or at least to cope effectively. And then when it pops up in everyday life, now's like game time. Now's your opportunity to practice. And what you're mostly practicing is not doing things to make it worse. And things that make it worse are typically avoidance behaviors of any kind, whether that's compulsions, neutralizing, suppression, getting reassurance. And so the willing attitude of acceptance is allowing the sensations to be there, allowing the thoughts to be there, not doing anything, again, that would make it worse. That's where the mindfulness practices are relevant for both the intentional practice and the incidental practice, because you're seeking to bring enough awareness to what's happening that you don't do something that's anxiety driven. Do you have any thoughts as I explain that?
Yeah, I mean, the major thought that came back to mind was it just takes a lot of work to not fuel the thought further. Like for me, my default is to keep playing out the thought and to get reassurance from someone, to get reassurance from a friend repeatedly, to get to Google it and figure out, and I will go like very far down a rabbit hole to like make sure that I don't have something or understand if I do. And it does definitely take work to be like, I'm fighting. I don't know if this is like psychologically correct, but it feels almost like an addiction in the sense that like if you have an anxious thought and your immediate reaction is to change something in your life to like what's like compulse around or Google or whatever, your mind like really, really, really wants to do it. And it's like fighting a pretty significant urge to not. And I think that's where for me being like, this is just your anxiety talking again, and always labeling it that has been helpful as like the first thing to kind of cut off the spiral that occurs after that.
Yeah, so that circles us all the way back to uncertainty. I think when what you're describing is the desire to get certainty when something uncertain pops up into your mind. And so
Yeah.
if you can see that as just anxiety and not as a message or a threat, something that you have to act on, then the degree of uncertainty that you feel over time should decrease. And again, you're not going to make it worse.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't we end there? Catherine, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.